Welcome to the deep dive. August 12th, 2025 was, well, it was truly an extraordinary day.
Hmm.
A real whirlwind of global shifts, economic tremors, and profound societal moments unfolding across continents.
Yeah, absolutely packed.
So today, we're taking a deep dive into the sheer volume of news from just that single day. We're going to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight.
Right. Our mission really is to help you understand how all these global happenings connect, and what genuinely matters
Exactly, from high-stakes international negotiations and market movements.
to urgent humanitarian crises and crucial domestic policy shifts. August 12th really gave us a snapshot of a world in constant motion.
So get ready to unpack an intensely eventful day. Lots of surprising facts, crucial insights. Hopefully you'll leave feeling well-informed.
We'll try to show not just what happened, but maybe why it matters.
Okay, let's kick things off on the international stage then, because August 12th was absolutely buzzing with geopolitical activity.
It really was.
And it's striking how seemingly disparate events, they often connect to this larger global dance.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, the U.S. and China extended a tariff truce by 90 days.
Ah, yes.
That truce successfully averting a sudden duty surge. I mean, it could have pushed tariffs as high as 145% on some Chinese imports.
And 125% on some U.S. goods. Huge numbers.
Exactly.
And this move, well, analysts widely saw it as a pragmatic step, almost strategic, you could say.
Pragmatic how?
Well, preserving supply chains, right? Especially crucial with the holiday season coming up. So markets, retailers, they definitely welcomed it. Reduce some immediate recession risks.
Okay, that makes sense short term.
But here's the sharper insight, I think. This 90-day truce, it isn't really a de-escalation. It feels more like a strategic pause.
A pause, not a solution.
Precisely. It suggests both nations are prioritizing, short-term economic stability over actually resolving the fundamental disputes.
Like what kind of disputes?
Oh, the big ones. Fentanyl controls, commodity purchases, tech restrictions. Those are all still very much on the table, unresolved.
So the underlying tech Cold War is still simmering then?
Definitely simmering, not subsiding. Now, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent did indicate the U.S. trade team plans to meet Chinese counterparts in the next 2 to 3 months. So continued engagement, yes, but probably on their own terms.
A strategic pause, that's a powerful way to put it. Okay, shifting gears. Another major international flashpoint, Ukraine.
Right.
On August 12th, we saw Russia pressing forward in Donetsk, reports of advances around Dobropilya.
Even as Ukraine was redeploying reserves and claiming some localized successes near the Sumy border. So back and forth there.
And this military pressure, it directly impacts the diplomacy, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It ratchets up the stakes, especially with that high-profile summit between Presidents Trump and Putin getting closer.
And how are others reacting? Europe, for instance.
Well, European leaders are openly wary. Very wary. They're urging that any talks must respect Ukraine's sovereignty and absolutely include Kyiv.
So fears of a side deal.
There's a palpable concern, that a bilateral U.S.-Russia deal might end up trading territory for just a ceasefire.
Which raises a huge question.
It really does. What are the true long-term implications of a ceasefire that just freezes the current front lines? Does it, embolden future aggression? Or is it a necessary step towards de-escalation, despite the steep human and economic costs of the fighting continuing? Tough calculus.
So the battlefield isn't just about land, it's shaping the whole diplomatic agenda.
Directly.
Okay, meanwhile, the Gaza conflict. Still a profound humanitarian crisis on August 12th. Israel bombarded eastern Gaza City overnight.
And the humanitarian situation on the ground is, frankly, catastrophic. I mean, UN agencies warned that 100% of Gaza's population was experiencing high levels of acute food insecurity.
Why? What's the primary cause?
It's due to a near-total Israeli blockade, according to the UN. And the impact. Reports from aid organizations estimate at least 122 deaths just from malnutrition in July alone.
Just awful.
And documented cases of acute malnutrition among children apparently tripled within months. It's a truly dire picture.
And in response, we are seeing some international efforts trying to make a difference.
Yes, some.
Like on August 12th, the German Air Force began airdropping humanitarian aid into Gaza.
Right, responding to international pressure, appeals from the UN, NGOs.
But does that really help?
Well, it highlights the immense challenges of delivering aid in a conflict zone like this. The operation was designed to bypass Israeli restrictions, sure, but aid groups are quite clear. They fear airdrops alone cannot possibly solve the scale of this crisis. Not even close.
And what about the ceasefire talks, hostage negotiations?
They seem to be pivoting. Prime Minister Netanyahu hinted at an all-at-once release framework. Hamas, meanwhile, signaling its red lines around disarmament.
And how's that being received?
It's striking, actually. You see this split reaction. On one side, families are just desperate for any swift resolution, but on the other, critics warn that these maximalist demands from either side could inadvertently just prolong the fighting and all the suffering that goes with it.
A tragic dilemma. Okay, beyond these major conflicts, August 12th also saw other key developments. New alliances, border disputes.
Yeah, definitely.
For example, India and the Philippines conducted their first joint naval exercise in the disputed South China Sea. Advanced warships, support vessels.
And this isn't just, a routine drill. It really signals a notable new phase in regional security cooperation.
Happening where exactly?
Right in the middle of rising tensions, especially with China, who denounced the exercise as provocative.
So connecting the dots.
If you connect this to the bigger picture, yeah, it suggests pretty significant shifts in Asian geopolitics. And that could potentially impact global trade routes as nations start reevaluating alliances in maritime security.
Okay. And elsewhere in Asia, Southeast Asia.
Peace negotiations between Cambodia and Thailand convened in Malaysia on August 12th.
Following that conflict.
Yeah, months of armed conflict that killed dozens and displaced over 270,000 people. A huge number.
So what are these talks aiming for?
They're aiming for a long-term ceasefire. But it's complex, disputed land rights, strong nationalist sentiment on both sides.
Is there hope for success?
Well, international observers cautiously welcome the talks, but skepticism remains quite high about whether any agreement will actually last. And meanwhile, NGOs working with refugees are calling for immediate aid and resettlement programs.
Right, because even if there's a ceasefire, the human crisis continues for those displaced.
Exactly. That doesn't just vanish.
Okay, let's unpack this and shift back to the U.S. because August 12th was equally eventful domestically. Governance, the economy.
Right. A lot happening stateside, too.
We saw President Trump's really controversial move to federalize the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that was major. A rare, very contentious assertion of federal control over city law enforcement.
What did that actually look like on the ground?
National Guard troops arrived, federal officers were reported making arrests, and DEA Administrator Terry Cole was appointed to oversee daily police operations.
Wow. And the reaction?
Deeply polarized, as you'd expect. Many Republicans hailed its strong stance against crime, but city leaders like Mayor Muriel Bowser and Police Chief Pamela Smith insisted local leadership was still operational.
So confusion.
Big-time confusion over the chain of command. And civil liberties groups, many residents, they decried it as a direct affront to home rule. Fears of eroded trust, federal overreach.
It really raises that fundamental question about the balance of power, doesn't it? Federal versus local.
Absolutely. And the long-term implications for city governance, for civil liberties, when these kinds of interventions happen.
And sticking with that theme of federal authority, California.
Yes, California.
Officials there alleged on August 12th that the White House crossed a constitutional line.
How so?
By deploying Marine units and National Guard troops to Los Angeles, claiming it was to silence protests near federal buildings.
Okay, so California saw it as politically motivated, aimed at quelling dissent.
Right. Federal officials, of course, framed it differently necessary to guard facilities, restore order.
The standard framing. So what happens next?
Legal experts anticipate an intense court fight over the scope of the Insurrection Act.
That makes sense. And there's more. The Pentagon is apparently even considering expanding a rapid reaction role for Guard units in U.S. cities.
For emergencies, presumably.
That's the stated intention. But civil liberties advocates warn it could significantly chill protest rights, regardless of intent. A really tricky area.
Serious tests of federal power. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, maybe even a bit bizarre.
Go on.
Despite all that political turbulence, the social unrest, Wall Street closed at record highs on August 12th.
Right. The S&P 500, the NASDAQ, both notched record closes, up 1.1 to 1.4% on the day.
What was driving that?
Seems like it was fueled by AI investment hype and renewed hopes for easier monetary policy from the Fed.
Did the economic data support that hope?
Well, July inflation data came in broadly in line with expectations. That helped sustain the positive mood that was already building around inflation maybe moderating.
So traders started pricing in rate cuts.
Yeah, higher odds of a September rate cut, though views definitely varied. Kansas City Fed President Jeffrey Schmidt argued policy should actually stay on hold for now,
Why?
citing steady growth and still elevated inflation. So it really underscores this data-dependent, often contradictory path ahead for monetary policy. The market wants one thing, some policymakers see another.
A fascinating disconnect indeed. But it wasn't all positive economic news for the U.S., was it?
No, definitely not.
The Trump administration also imposed new tariffs on imports from over 90 countries on August 12th.
That's right, including 35% on select Canadian goods, 50% on Brazilian goods, ending that 90-day preparatory pause.
And the scale of this.
These are sweeping measures. They represent the highest average effective tariff rate in the U.S. since the 1930s. The 1930s.
Wow. What's the predicted impact?
Analysis by the Budget Lab at Yale projects consumer prices will rise about 1.8% in the short term,
Which means?
which means costing the average American household around $2,400 this year. Textiles, clothing, shoes, electronics markets likely hit hardest,
And exports.
projected to fall by 62.1%. So it raises that significant question again. How do you balance protecting American industry against the risk of damaging international trade relationships and hitting domestic consumers right in the wallet?
A tough balancing act.
Yeah.
And speaking of tariffs and trade friction,
Yeah.
China's move against Canada.
Ah, the canola duties, yes. On August 12th, China slapped preliminary anti-dumping duties of 75.8% on Canadian canola.
Ouch. Impact.
Jolted futures markets, sent prices tumbling. It underscores how quickly these tit-for-tat measures can ripple from industry policy right into commodities and farm incomes.
The Canadian farmers are feeling it.
Definitely. They're warning it could severely squeeze margins, especially after what was already a difficult planting season. And officials are now weighing possible appeals through trade bodies. It just shows how fast these things escalate globally.
Okay, let's broaden our scope again.
Yeah.
Look at some other major global challenges, societal reckonings from around August 12th.
Right?
And this one is deeply unsettling. On August 12th, a shocking attack occurred at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, in Atlanta.
Yes, that was horrifying. A 30-year-old gunman fired over 180 rounds, shattered windows, trapped staff inside.
And the outcome.
The gunman took his own life. Tragically, a police officer responding to the scene was killed.
Any known motive.
Investigators said writings they found indicated intense rage over COVID-19 vaccination policies.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. This attack just brings into sharp focus the escalating harassment that public health agencies have faced. And it intensifies that debate about political rhetoric, and its real-world consequences.
How did officials react?
Well, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. condemned the violence, even while maintaining his criticism of the CDC's pandemic response. CDC leaders vowed to keep the agency focused on science, but also acknowledged these deep trust deficits that have emerged. A very difficult position for them.
Absolutely. Now, shifting to a very different kind of societal debate, the American Bar Association.
Right, the ABA meeting in Toronto.
On August 12th, they voted to open 5 previously reserved Board of Governors seats to any candidates who demonstrate a commitment to inclusion.
Right, so these seats were previously explicitly set aside for representatives of underrepresented groups.
And the change means?
The change now centers on lived experience and professional contributions without restricting eligibility by demographic category.
How was that received? Predictably divided.
Pretty much. Supporters called it a modernization, preserves DEI goals, they argue, while limiting legal exposure. Critics, though, worried it could actually dilute the very representation it aims to foster.
And this is happening while the ABA is facing other challenges.
Exactly. They're also grappling with ongoing membership declines, which just adds another layer to the whole discussion.
Interesting timing. Okay, energy front. The U.S. government selected 11 companies on August 12th for a new program.
A reactor program, yes.
Aiming to accelerate test reactors, prove designs in real-world conditions, streamline licensing, supply chains.
This initiative targets both next-gen fission concepts and improved fuel cycles. It's really seeking to jumpstart small modular reactors, SMRs.
As a low-carbon option.
As a low-carbon complement to renewables, exactly. And it's a direct response to previous projects that struggled with massive cost overruns.
So, potential game changer.
Well, if a successful test reactor cohort can actually be established, it could unlock private financing and maybe revive U.S. nuclear leadership. But, and it's a big but,
Hurdles remain.
crucial hurdles.
Yes.
Cost, waste handling, and securing genuine community consent. Those are still very much significant obstacles.
Okay, and sticking with tech and global competition, China's warnings about AI chips.
Right, on August 12th, China's Cyberspace Administration cautioned major tech firms there, Tencent, ByteDance, Baidu,
Cautioned them about what?
about buying NVIDIA's H20 AI chips. They raised data security concerns, questioned the reliance on foreign parts.
So not a ban, but
Not an outright ban, no. But it definitely signaled higher barriers for U.S. suppliers like NVIDIA.
what's the key insight there?
Well, it forces Chinese companies to diversify their chip sources
Right.
and accelerate their own domestic production. That impacts global supply chains for advanced AI tech.
And Washington's reaction?
Interestingly, in Washington, there was this unusual revenue-sharing idea the White House floated around NVIDIA's China sale.
Revenue sharing.
Yeah, and it drew bipartisan concern about both corporate and national security risks. Lawmakers warned these sort of piecemeal deals could undercut a coherent export control strategy.
Fascinating complexity there. Okay, from cutting-edge tech to, well, the stark realities of climate change, wildfires.
A grim reality. Southern Europe facing increasingly severe fire seasons around that time. Mass evacuations reported near Patras in Greece.
Spain, too.
Deadly conditions in parts of Spain, yeah. Flames reaching homes, factories. Meanwhile, Turkish officials reported major fires in Sanakal province were largely contained, but
the damage is done.
the economic and health impacts, lost tourism revenue, smoke-related illnesses they're mounting across the region. And the critical point was that extreme wildfire risk was expected to persist through the week. It just highlights this growing, persistent threat of climate-driven disasters.
A constant threat now. Okay, switching gears again. Global finance. Bank of England.
Yes, on August 12th, they cut their projected net loss on quantitative easing QE
By how much?
from $120 billion down to $115 billion.
Okay, $5 billion. Why does that specific adjustment matter?
Well, it highlights the immense fiscal cost that the UK Treasury has to cover under this long-standing indemnity agreement.
An indemnity, like
Yeah.
insurance. Sort of. But it's basically a blank check from the Treasury, covering the bank's losses on QE. So these losses become a direct hit to the UK taxpayer.
Which makes it political.
Hugely political, a major flashpoint amid intense budget pressures. Officials argue, of course, that QE's overall macroeconomic benefits outweigh these costs, but critics keep questioning the program's design and its long-term financial consequences.
Always the debate there. Okay, let's touch on a couple more international points from August 12th or just around then. Kenya.
Kenya's central bank trimmed its policy rate by 25 basis points to 9.50% on August 12th.
That's a cut. Why?
It was their seventh consecutive cut, actually, aiming to spur lending. Inflation was within target, so it helped unlock credit, kept Kenya kind of aligned with other emerging markets, cautiously easing policies as global financial conditions relaxed a bit, though fiscal constraints still limit the recovery pace.
Okay. And Guatemala. A significant court ruling.
Yes, a really important one for accountability. A Guatemalan court convicted 6 former officials on August 12th.
Related to that devastating 2017 shelter fire that killed 41 girls. The convictions included child protection authorities, police officers, sentences from 6 to 25 years,
For what crimes specifically?
ranging from manslaughter to abuse of authority. Testimony recounted these chilling delays in unlocking doors as the fire spread, trapping the girls inside.
Just heartbreaking. How is the verdict received?
Families and survivors called it a long overdue step toward accountability. And importantly, the judge urged further investigation of senior officials, signaling potential broader reforms across Guatemala's whole social welfare system. It highlights that long, hard road towards justice when you have systemic failures.
Indeed. And let's quickly cover a few other events from around that time that were significant. The Anaconda, Montana shooting.
Right, that was slightly earlier, August 1st. The shooting at the Owl Bar left 4 dead. The suspect, an Army veteran, was apprehended on August 9th after a big manhunt.
Such a tragedy for a small community.
Absolutely devastated the community. And it reignited debates, as these events always do, about gun laws, mental health care, support for veterans, calls for policy reform, better crisis intervention.
And the volcano eruption in Indonesia?
Mount Luatobi Laki-Laki, yeah. That started erupting around August 2nd. Huge ash plumes, up to 18 kilometers high, caused widespread flight cancellations to Bali and nearby airports.
Dangerous slows.
Yeah, pyroclastic slows, risk of lahars, those dangerous mud flows. Disaster preparedness seems improved compared to past eruptions, but still, major travel disruptions, temporary evacuations, economic losses for tourism areas.
South Korea was also dealing with political fallout around then.
Still grappling with the aftermath of their December 2024 martial law crisis. On August 12th, a Seoul court issued arrest warrants for the former interior minister, adding him to the list of high-profile figures facing conspiracy and insurrection charges.
Stemming from the former president's actions.
Exactly. Former President Yoon Suk-yeol's attempt to impose martial law. It exposed vulnerabilities in their political system, prompted new rules, like banning security forces from parliament without approval, trying to strengthen democratic safeguards.
On a much brighter note, women's football.
Yes. Brazil won their ninth Copa America Femenina title on August 2nd. Dramatic final against Colombia, won in a penalty shootout.
And Marta's shown again.
Marta was named the tournament's MVP. It was Brazil's fifth consecutive Copa title, and women's football just cements their dominance. And it inspired renewed investment in women's sports there, a great showcase of rising talent.
Good news. What about the European hotels lawsuit?
Ah, yes. Early August, a coalition of over 10,000 European hotels, represented by the Hotrec Union, filed a landmark lawsuit against Booking.com.
Alleging what?
Alleging its best price clauses restricted hotels from offering lower rates on their own websites, harming competition. They argue it stifled the market, cost them billions.
Big implications if they win.
Potentially huge. Could reshape digital marketplaces for travel, especially for smaller independent hotels.
Right.
Reflects this wider discontent with dominant tech platforms, really.
Another tragedy involving migrants off Yemen.
Horrible incident on August 12th. A boat carrying Ethiopian migrants capsized off Abyei Governorate, Yemen. At least 68 people killed, dozens missing.
Just one of many such incidents, sadly.
The latest in a series of deadly accidents involving people fleeing violence, deprivation, underscores their extreme vulnerability. Experts are calling for coordinated international rescue systems, stronger protections, and crucially, addressing the root causes driving this migration.
And a shocking event in China. A school attack.
Yes, a knife attack at a primary school in Liang, Hunan on August 12th. Left 2 dead, 3 injured.
How common is this in China?
Such incidents are rare compared to other forms of mass violence, but still deeply shocking. Police arrested a suspect quickly, launched an investigation. The government promised security reviews. Public reaction was horror, demands for reform. Experts suggest investing in mental health, school security, warning that social pressures might be fueling some violence.
And finally, a prison riot in Mexico.
Tuxpan, Veracruz, August 12th. Violent riot at the Social Reintegration Center. Left 7 inmates dead, 11 injured.
Triggered by
Gang rivalries, overcrowding, common issues. Officials transferred 3 instigators. It highlights the ongoing deep challenges in Mexico's prison system. Violence and corruption are frequent problems. Public outcry spurred investigations, government pledged reforms, but experts warn without real systemic change, these disasters risk repeating.
Wow. Okay. What an incredible, almost overwhelming array of stories, all largely centered around a single day, August 12th, 2025.
It is pretty overwhelming when you lay it all out.
It really shows just how interconnected our world is, doesn't it? And how quickly these major events can unfold, cascade even.
Absolutely. And what stands out to me looking back at all this is how many of these events, trade talks, military actions, social reforms, even these tragedies, they reflect ongoing, complex global patterns. They're not just isolated incidents.
Right. They're threads in a larger tapestry.
Exactly. A larger tapestry of change that really demands our careful attention.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener, trying to make sense of it all?
Well, I think it means that being truly well-informed isn't just about knowing what happened on a given day.
It's more than just the headlines.
Much more. It's about understanding why it matters, how it influences the bigger picture. It's really about empowering you to connect the dots, especially in a world that often just feels like relentless information overload.
Connect the dots. That's key. Okay, as you think about all these stories we've discussed today, here's maybe a provocative thought to leave you with.
All right, let's hear it.
How might these seemingly distinct challenges, things like economic protectionism, geopolitical stability, these urgent humanitarian crises, how might they ultimately converge, perhaps in unexpected ways, to redefine global power dynamics and even our own societal priorities in the coming year?
It's a big question. Convergence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something definitely worth thinking about.